Hello?
Hey, yo, Cutter, what up, man?
What's up, APT? What's going on?
Yo, man, I got a problem.
What's that?
I got these two girls I'm seeing, right?
Uh-huh.
They're both just so good to me. I can't decide which one I should be with.
Man, I'm going through the same thing, man. I got two girls that'll do anything for me.
Oh, boy.
It might sound crazy, baby, believe me. Got two hot ladies, they both loving me. And I gotta choose one, man, I can't choose one. But I gotta choose one, man, I can't choose one. Yo, I gotta choose one, man, I can't choose one. I can't have them both, so I gotta choose one. Yo, I got a hot chick living on the north side. I got a hot chick living on the south side. I got a problem cause I can't tell who to choose. They both seem like they both down to ride or die. My north side chick love to cook a brother grub. My south side chick love to give me back rubs. My north side chick down to pay a brother's tab. My south side chick always down for touch and grab. My north side chick knows how to ride the stick. My south side chick love to drive me in the whip. My north side chick loves to get all freaky. My south side chick loves to get all freaky. They both like dress up and don't give a crap if their hair gets messed up. This is my confession. I'm just about ready to settle down, but I can't decide who I'm supposed to choose now. Oh! It might sound crazy, baby, believe me. Got two hot ladies, they both loving me. And I gotta choose one, man, I can't choose one. But I gotta choose one, man, I can't choose one. Yo, I gotta choose one, man, I can't choose one. I can't have them both, so I gotta choose one. Oh!
I got a hot chick living on the east side. I got a hot chick living on the west side. I got an issue, I don't know who to choose. They like me and I like them both too. My east side chick is a white girl. My west side chick is a black girl. My east side chick likes to have sex. My west side girl got some big breasts. My east side chick freaky as she wanna be. My west side chick always protecting me. My east side chick take away all my stress. My west side chick, she don't take no mess. They both so mature, they both so gorgeous. I like both of them cause they not boring. But let me slow it down, I can only choose one. I can't have them both, so I gotta pick one. It might sound crazy, baby, believe me. Got two hot ladies, they both loving me. I gotta choose one, man, I can't choose one. But I gotta choose one, man, I can't choose one. Yo, I gotta choose one, man, I can't choose one. I can't have them both, so I gotta choose one.
Hey yo, I tried to be a player, but the truth is, a brother never ever been this ruthless. And if they ever find out I would do this, I'd probably end up with a broken jaw, toothless.
I used to do the same thing a long time ago, but it's time for me to let that player stuff go. Cause I got two hot girls just to choose from. Yo, how you gonna decide which one to lose, son?
Man, both girls got different stuff about my life, but I gotta dump one tonight, cause it just seems right.
I know what you mean, I want both girls in my life, but it would be wrong to have two girls for a wife.
Oh man, what are we supposed to do?
When you got two good girls, how do you choose?
I don't know, it shouldn't be as hard as this.
And if we choose the wrong one,
We'll all be pissed. Oh! It might sound crazy, baby, believe me. Got two hot ladies, they both loving me. And I gotta choose one, man, I can't choose one. But I gotta choose one, man, I can't choose one. Yo, I gotta choose one, man, I can't choose one. I can't have them both, so I gotta choose one. Oh! Hey, big tank.
Carter.
Yeah. We're gonna have to dump one of them, man.
I know, man, it's gonna be hard, yo.
Well, I don't know. You figure out who you gonna get rid of.
Uh-huh.
I'm gonna have to have my conversation on this side, man.
Alright, man. I hate to be the heartbreaker, though.
I'll call you tomorrow, see what's up.
That sounds good. Take care, man.
Alright. Peace.
We don't need all these cops. We don't need no Billy Club. Y'all done enough.
No justice, no peace. No racist police.
Enough is enough.
Somebody imagine shackles on black wrists, and yet people believed it to make it true. Somebody imagined borders, and enough people believed it to make it true. Somebody imagined police, and enough people believed it to make it true. So we have to be the diviners of change, the disruptors of truth. We must imagine differently.
We have to stop the nonsense and take back our communities, and we have to police ourselves. Fight like Ali for your life.
This event has been deemed an unlawful assembly. You need to disperse to the east now. Failure to comply with this lawful order may subject you to arrest and forced
System of policing has got to go.
Say her name! Say her name! Say her name! Who looks like they're dressed for a riot? Us or them?
Our lives matter. Black lives matter. Black lives matter. Black lives matter.
It could have been me. It could have been you. It could have been anybody out here, man.
One injustice, one place is an injustice in every place. And we got to come together.
It's the Introvert Dating Success Podcast, the show for introverted men that's all about learning how to attract beautiful women and still get your precious alone time. And now, here's your host, dating coach and fellow introvert, Harry Wilmington.
Hey guys, thanks for tuning in to the Introvert Dating Success Show, courtesy of introvertdatingsuccess.com. I'm your host as always, Harry Wilmington. This is the show, and that is the website where you can go to learn how to date as your authentic introverted self while still getting your precious alone time. And on today's show, we're going to actually be talking about virginity. There was a chat comment that I saw maybe about a week ago from somebody that was in the chat stream, and they had asked me if I would ever do a show about virginity, waiting until marriage to have sex. And I thought it would be an interesting topic because I was a guy that I would consider to be a late bloomer, in the sense that I was a guy that was actually trying to wait until he was married to have sex. And this wasn't anything that was like forced upon me as a religious thing or anything that my parents were trying to push. Like, they weren't the ones saying I need to wait until marriage. My mom has definitely told me stories of like how she did not wait prior to meeting my dad. But it was something that I, at the time, I felt was important. And so I lost my virginity at 23. And in the course of trying to wait and hold off until I had sex, I definitely went through various emotional things and other experiences that I felt would be privy to share. But with that said, so we're gonna touch on that a little bit today. And also, I kind of wanted to go into basically the pros and cons of deciding to be a virgin until you're married, because I've had my personal experience. I've had the experience of dating a woman who, she wasn't exactly a virgin, but she was very, very new in coming into her sexual being. And then I actually had a couple of friends who both waited until they were married and their spouses waited. And one had a very positive experience with that, and one had a very negative experience. So I want to kind of talk about those experiences and then go into the pros and cons of what you need to kind of like think about if you're deciding that that might be a pathway that you want to follow. Because it's not that there's a wrong, that it's bad or good to wait or not wait, but there are things that on both sides could help you better determine if that's something you want to actually do. So we'll get into that as always. For more of these shows, you can go to protestparty.tv on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. We have a live stream chat there where you can type in stuff and chat with other people. And I look in there occasionally and see what's going on and like to also comment on that as well. You can also catch these shows at iTunes, at Google Play, Spotify. You can go to introvertdatingsuccess.com to see these shows. Also, go to the website now if you want to check out some of my ebooks. Right now, I'm offering you the chance to read the first chapter of my best-selling book, No Girls for You, The Ultimate Guide to Losing the Girl of Your Dreams. That chapter is all about being a nice guy and how you can continue to be a nice guy if you want to lose women. So check that out. We also got video training programs there. If you are a guy that needs one-on-one coaching, you can click on the coaching tab and we can set something up for you there as well. And of course, this show, guys, is all about you. Just like I'm talking today about the virginity thing, that was based on a suggestion in the chats. So if you're a guy that wants to have something talked about specifically on this show, you can go to the chat and put something in there. You can write to me at the website by clicking on the contact tab, and you can also just write to me directly at harrywilmington@gmail.com. Okay. Lastly, the last Wednesday of this month, which I believe is Wednesday, August 26th, I will be releasing my smart digital dating program, which is basically a complete step-by-step guide on how to be able to date on web apps and stuff like that. And I've had a lot of great success specifically in those areas, and to where it's like my dating calendar is never empty. And I'm able to like meet girls that are some of the hottest girls online, the ones that are oftentimes hard for other guys to get into conversations with or even attract online. And so if you're a guy that's been struggling with that particular aspect of dating and you want to get better at it, then this program is going to be great. And I'll talk more about that in the coming weeks because it's going to be coming out very soon. But I just want you to know that's coming out on Wednesday, August 26th at the website. So stay tuned for all of that. Okay, so let's talk about virginity. So this is one of those things that, especially as an introverted guy or a guy that may be anxious or not really able to get himself out there as much as he wants to, this is something that probably weighs heavily on your mind. The idea that you could potentially be a virgin really your whole life, but that at the very least, you might not get any action for a while. And so as a result of that, some of you may decide, well, you know what, if that's going to be the case, then I'll just wait until I'm married to have sex. While others of you are kind of like, you currently have forced virginity on you, and you might have a girl out there that is interested in you, and she's talking the talk about, well, you know, we can date, but I'm trying to save myself, and that's something that I want to do. And you might be trying to consider if that is a pathway you also would want to legitimately do, or if you want to try to risk that and go for somebody else who might be willing to have sex if you are feeling those feelings. And so this is something that a lot of guys experience. And this is my case was pretty much that, as I've said before in this show, I was a very bad dater early on. I didn't have the confidence to be able to attract the women that I wanted. And even the ones that were kind of like, okay, I still wasn't confident that I'd be able to actually make anything happen with them. And so when I was younger, I was in the church and I started to read books, again, of my own accord, on the benefits of waiting until marriage to have sex. And a lot of those things, made sense. The typical like, oh, well, you don't want to be a tainted guy, or you don't want to risk getting these various diseases and things. And, the girl that you get with won't feel as special because you will have had experiences, that intimate experience with other people besides her. And I read this stuff, I watched videos on this stuff, and my logical mind was like, okay, in order to have the best sexual experience possible, and to make sure that any woman I get with is not going to feel slighted from me being tainted in a way, that I will wait until marriage. Oh, and the other thing important too was that I thought to myself, women are always talking about how guys are just all about sex and how they wish they could find a guy that wasn't just trying to get in their pants. And so my logical mind thought, okay, well, if I just tell women that I'm a virgin and I'm not actively trying to have sex, then I will clearly be the guy they want to choose, because I won't be coming after them at all for sex. So when I went to college, I actually told people that I was a virgin and that I was trying to wait, thinking that this would win me some points. Well, in actuality, it did two things. One, any women that didn't want to have sex, or any women that actually wanted to have sex, wouldn't try to get with me. And unbeknownst to me, the logic I heard about women not wanting guys to just be all about sex, I didn't equate that didn't mean that they didn't want sex. And so imagine my shock when the girls that I liked in college were coming to me with these stories about hooking up with guys. And I'm like, well, wait, but they weren't trying to wait. What are you talking about? You're supposed to be virginal and you're supposed to not want to have sex like that. But now you're out there saying you're having some. Oh my God, how dare you? And then the other thing that happened, which I didn't really even recognize until later, was that there were some women who I would tell I was a virgin, and that presented a challenge. And at that time, I did not know about the whole thing about being a challenge to women and about not trying to harp on them and chase after them, and then they'll chase after you. So I would tell these women that I'm virgins, and then some of them would be like, I'm going to try to see how sexy I can be and how much I can do to try to get him to approach me. Because even though they want sex, they still don't want to look like a harlequin. So they're going to try to do things that pull me in to want to change my mind. So I had it where I had girlfriends of mine where I'd go to their apartments or whatever, and they'd open the door dressed in lingerie. And I'm thinking to myself, well, they know I'm a virgin, so that's not for me. And so I wouldn't do anything. And then they would stop trying to do that after a while. So it was an interesting experience. And in the course of me being a virgin, because I was forcefully doing this to myself, I was actively not trying to have sex. I was denying a primal part of myself that had the want for that. And so as a result of that, I went through a lot of, I'd say in hindsight, looking back, it was definitely a lot of times where I was depressed, not because I couldn't get sex, because I think I could at that point, but it was just that I was so uncomfortable at that point with the idea of even having sex. And my whole identity was tied to this fact that I was this virginal guy that everybody knew wasn't going to have sex. And so there was the balance of like trying to remain faithful to that and also recognizing that I'm denying these strong urges that I have to have sex with these hot women that would actively have sex with me if I would just be the one to let that go. And it definitely hit on my self-esteem. I didn't feel like I was all that manly. Not that you have to be a man, you have to, not that having sex means that you're a man, but with all the testosterone going through our body, it's definitely one of those things where you're not active on the testosterone part that's actually making you want to have sex. So there were parts of me that felt less than, like all these other guys are out there, or man, if I, like all these girls lied to me, like if I was having sex, they probably want to stay around more, but they're not. And I feel some kind of way about that. And so, but I went through all of my high school and like the majority of my college years without sex. And in fact, it wasn't until the week after I graduated or knew that I was going to graduate from college that I finally had sex for the first time. And a couple months prior to that, I had had other forms of that, but it wasn't going all the way. And then I just finally decided, like, you know what, it's time. Like this girl that I'm with is clearly been actively wanting to have sex with me for months now. And I'm just at a place where I just don't want to hold back anymore. And I finally did it. And so there are some people that when that happens, they have a remorse about it. Like they'll go back and say, man, I was trying to wait and I just gave it up and I feel so bad. I didn't feel bad at all. I felt great. I had been studying up on what to do when I got it. So if I got it and I gave it good, I could get some more of it. And I knew the safety precautions and I knew kind of things to do to her, to turn her on and make her wild out. But I was like ready to go. Okay. So that was my experience, was that ultimately in terms of me waiting that long, I sometimes wonder in hindsight if I would have done it earlier, like if that would have been a better thing or not so better thing. I don't think there's any major judgment on it because I think back on the girls that maybe I would have wanted to hook up with. And it's kind of like, I don't see any of those girls now, even as friends. So maybe it was probably better that I waited. But yeah, it was an interesting thing where like, I definitely had times where I was depressed and I didn't feel good about myself for waiting. And then I felt at times that women just didn't want me. And that was even hitting more my self-esteem. And there's something to be said for that will be a thing that hits on your self-esteem at times. If you're feeling as though you can't actively get women and it's because of this thing that you're holding on to, then that as a man can kind of like flip your world around. Because again, we're taught that girls are supposed to be virginal and they're not trying to want sex as much as us, which also we know is a lie now. Because definitely I'm at the age now where I'm kind of like more laid back about having to do it so much. And the women that I date are actively like, let's do some stuff. So yeah, women definitely want it as much, if not more than us fellas. That is so true. But when you're not getting any, it's like funny. It's ironic when you're not trying to have sex, you have to actively think about not having sex. And that makes you think about sex all the time. And that in itself is its own form of torture. Okay. So that was my experience as a person who was trying to wait and then eventually decided at 23, that's it. It's a wrap. I got to do some sex. So that's mine. Now, a few years later, I dated a woman. And this is when I was 30 and she was 30 also, but she was a virgin until she was 29. So she literally had sex for the first time before we got together. And for those of you that are wondering, let's say you have a crush on a woman who's in her late 20s, early 30s, mid 30s, even sometimes 40 now, who has not had sex before because she is actively trying to wait, or in some cases, she's felt family pressure to have to wait. Either way, she's not giving it up right away, okay? So I've only dated one kind of woman like this, so I can only speak on that personal experience. But what is interesting to note is that at that point, the later you wait or the later the person you're dating is waiting to have sex, there's a chance that they're going to be less and less comfortable doing certain things within the sexual realm that you would probably like. So in my case, because of this woman waited for so long, combined with like, again, how her family thought about sex and whatnot, there were a lot of things she didn't want to do. She didn't, or that she introduced early on, but then wasn't actually comfortable with and just did that to try to please me, but then decided not to do it later. So that could be things like wearing lingerie. She felt a certain way about that in terms of like feeling like it would make her whorish she had a bad connotation with that already. She wasn't comfortable with a lot of various different positions. She wasn't comfortable going down on me. Like there were just a lot of things within that because she waited so long, she didn't have practice at it. She didn't have time to feel comfortable with it. She didn't get a chance to talk to her family and friends about those kind of things because they just didn't talk about it. And so because she was so inexperienced, when we finally connected, we were together for like a while, and it took her years to start to get comfortable with certain things. And even then, it was still a thing where like she just ultimately never really got to that place where she was feeling like it felt off of her. Like her ego was tied to sex is this certain way and doing these certain things. And anything out of this here, my ego now is making me feel like I'm a slut or I'm a loose woman or it's just dirty and nasty and I can't do that. Okay. So that's my experience dating somebody who like literally lost their virginity like maybe 3 or 4 months before we started dating, and was just getting into like the idea of even having sex. But she had said that she wanted to have it before she was 30 because she was just tired of waiting. And then even then she couldn't grasp the concept of like, it's a give and take thing. It's not just about you, it's about both people. And that leads to my next friend. So like I said, I had two friends who actually waited until they were married. Now, one of these friends I went to college with, and you know, they were, when they got married, they were both virgins. And from his telling of the experience, basically it boiled down to on the night of their wedding, you know, you get hyped up, especially in the Christian religion and other various religions, that you wait until the wedding night. And when you get married and you have sex, it's going to be now allowed. It's going to be this blissful thing. You guys can just go at it and like animals and do whatever you want to. And it's now sanctioned by God to do this. But the problem is you have 2 rookies that are trying to play in a finals game. And neither of them have had any experience really talking about it, other than like guys saying, hey, on that night, you know, you're going to do your thing, but you don't know, like, I mean, you know, certain things, like, you know, like what parts go where, but you don't really know like how to angle those parts in, or like what things are going to feel good, or various different erogenous zones, or what's going to actually get the other person to get excited and have an orgasm. And so and then on top of, you've had all this stigma up to the wedding night saying, don't do it, don't do it, don't do it, don't do it. And now you're in the bed together. But you've had years of people telling you, don't do this. And now you're supposed to suddenly flip that and say, hey, it's okay, I'm comfortable now. And so my friend couldn't really like that first night, he said they didn't even do anything. Like they were just kind of there and was just like, okay, like, what do we do? Just got to hang out. And then they went on their honeymoon and they tried some stuff. It was uncomfortable. It didn't really feel like the so romantic thing that people had claimed it was going to be. And they struggled for a while. They struggled for a while to be able to handle that situation. And then inevitably, long story short, you know, they were together for a while and then they broke up. And so, you know, to this day, like, it's just that thing of like, he wonders if he should have waited that long because the experience for him wasn't that great. Like all this buildup and all this hype for waiting for somebody, only to find out that the experience wasn't all that great. And also there were other things that they should have been looking out for in that realm that they weren't able to because they weren't even trying to like do anything in that situation. So his experience with that wasn't all that great. Meanwhile, I have a friend that I went to high school with who still lives in Virginia. And we met up and he actually legit waited. Like he waited until he was married. He met a girl who also waited. They were in the church, not the same church. And during his time waiting, he was still getting a lot of dates. He was actively dating women. He was studying up on how to date and what to do and whatnot. And as far as he's told me, his situation with his wife was they got married. They were able to connect and it was good. And they, you know, it only got better with time and they're together still. They have 3 kids now. And his experience going through that was a lot more positive. So I bring all these situations together because between my experience, my friends' experiences, and the girl who I dated for a while's experience, we all have different levels of where we were at in our sexual journey. Some who were able to wait and then have a good experience, some that were able to wait and have a bad experience. Me, who tried to wait, but was depressed half the time, and then until I finally got some. And then one who just, they had it, but they weren't able ever to get past their previous programming to really make it as enjoyable of an experience as possible. And so there are a lot of things that you should be weighing when you're looking into the idea of if you want to wait until you're married to actually have sex. Because like I said, society, your family, your religion, etc., are going to put various pressures on you to make you feel a certain way about whether or not you should wait. And I know I said I didn't think I had family pressure, but definitely the books I was reading were religious ones that were saying like you're going to go to hell if you have sex before you're married, and oh, you're going to have the worst relationships ever. You'll never be able to get anybody if you do this, and those things just were not true. But again, things can program us to make us feel and think a certain way about this, when the reality is it should boil down to what are your needs? Like, do you have a need to want to have sex with somebody before you decide to take them on as a partner? Or are you a person that just feels like, you know what, I can take somebody on, we'll learn each other. It'll be weird at first, but we can together grow, and that'll be the only person that I'm connected with. So therefore, it'll be a better experience. And so what I want to go over are just 5 pros and 5 cons to consider when you are thinking about whether or not you should remain a virgin until you're married. And I wish this is something that I would have done a long time ago, because I think had I done this list, even if I decided to stay a virgin, I could have maybe better had an idea of why that is, and then not feel so bad about not doing it. Because like I said, there were a lot of girls out there wanting to do it. And when I had to turn them away, I would turn them away, then they'd go back to an ex-boyfriend or they'd hook up with somebody else. And I would just feel like, what the heck did I do that for? But at the time, admittedly, that meant that I was probably letting these women and how they were responding to this determine how my reaction was. Because there were guys out there that were also waiting, but they just had a stronger hold on that and were able to actually say, hey, this is what I'm doing, take it or leave it. And the girls respected that and they stayed around. So again, experiences can and mean and will vary. So before I get into that, let me just look into these chats real quick to see what's going on. Let's see, go through the chats here. This is how it was in my country, East Africa, back in the days. You had to be a blank, or it edited out what you're saying. It said you had to be a blank or the guy won't marry you. And yeah, that's the thing. Like a lot of different cultures, the girl that I was dating was Eritrean, and that's like straight up Africa. And just in their culture, she told me that they typically didn't even mention to their moms and dads that they had a boyfriend until they were going to get married to them. So think about that. If you're in a culture where you don't even tell anybody that you're with somebody until it's time for engagement, then how does that allow for open conversations about sex if you can't even have an open conversation about who you're dating in the first place? Like, that's a really strong thing. So yeah, different countries, different ideas, different things get pushed on you that you should be doing. And I like when I've heard this saying where people the problem is people are always shooting somebody to death, meaning you should do this, you should act this way, you should want to be a virgin, you shouldn't have sex. Like, all this shooting just does is just make people want to shut down and make them feel bad and awkward about some things that are just naturally urgent in our bodies, So continuing on. So does that mean more than likely it'll be good due to inexperience? And that's the thing, is that, there are arguments to be made for if a person has experience and if a person doesn't, because you could be with somebody that's had no experience, but like me, I was studying up. So when I asked the first time, I knew enough to be able to make her excited and happy. Like, she was happy enough to want to, I had one condom on me, and she was happy enough to want to get up out of bed at 2 a.m. and go to the store to find another one. So clearly I was doing something right. But that doesn't mean everybody that's not having sex is doing that. That doesn't mean they're studying up or they're looking to see what things are going to possibly be pleasurable to another person. So you got to be mindful of that as well. See, somebody says, it couldn't be me, but again, if I had grown up there, then I wouldn't have had a choice. But since I've been in the US since 9 years old, I lost mine to the man I wanted, so I was happy. And that's the thing too. Like, my mom told me, again, me and my mom are very open in terms of conversation, but she said for her first time, she just found a friend of hers that was a close guy friend that she felt would be able to walk her through the steps of having sex and make it a pleasurable experience and not be weirded out by some random strange guy. And I wish that, not that I wish everybody would do that particular method, but I do wish that we could be more open and honest about those kind of things. I wish that women could say, hey, I want to have sex with, we'll say in my case, with you, Harry, because I think that I'll have a good time and I just want to try it out. It ain't got to be that we're lovey-dovey, but I want to experience this. Most guys, I'd probably be like, yeah, let's do that. Like, it ain't got to be all close and stuff. We can do that and get it out of the way, and then you be done and I go my own way. But those are conversations that don't look like preferable conversations. They look very, very selfish, and it seems like it's just a weird conversation to have, so people don't have them, which is sad, So let's go into some of these pros. First, I'm going to go over the pros and then the cons. So here are some pros to consider if you are considering waiting until marriage to have sex, okay? The first pro is that you will only have had that other person's body as your experience. And some of you may look at this as like a bad thing, but I will say honestly, because I'm 38 now, I've definitely had my fair share of other partners. And I will say there is something to be said for the idea of like when somebody touches you or gets deep into you in an intimate way, that does stick with you. So there are girls that I dated like back in the early 2000s that if I saw them today, my body would be like, yep, let's hook up. So there is something to be said about the fact that if you're just with one person, most likely you won't have that feeling. That's not to say you won't ever find another woman like attractive, but it is something to be said for like, let's say you see an old friend that was a woman from back in your college days that you never hooked up with. You could see her and be like, oh, she's still cute, but you wouldn't have the same drive as like somebody you hooked up with from back in the day in college. And you see them and you're like, oh, they were cute and they were rocking in bed. Oh, crap. Ooh, I'm married now, but man, I wish I could have one more hit of that. And that is the feeling that I have had where I'm dating other girls. And then like, say like a girl I previously dated comes across my feed, or like I, might go to homecoming and see them. It's just like, oh man, like there's that urge now. Like, I wish I could, I can't, but I wish I could. Oh my God. So I think not having that feeling in your body would definitely be a positive thing if you're trying to stay on the straight and narrow and not be as tempted to see other people. Because if you're with this one person, there's no temptation to physically reconnect with the person you've hooked up with before. So that's a positive. Another pro is you get to discover together what your likes and dislikes are. So versus coming to the scenario where it's like, well, I already have X, Y, and Z that I like, and if this person doesn't do it, it's a wrap. You're more likely to go to that situation where, okay, you don't have certain experiences yet and they don't. So you can kind of find out together what's going to be pleasing to her, what she can do to you. You can decide together if you like those things, or let's say she wants something done to her that you find out you don't like. Well, it's like, okay, well then I don't like this. You don't like this thing, but I kind of want this thing done that you might not be a fan of. So can we trade off to see if that's going to be a thing? So that could be a thing where you're able to really figure out together the kind of sexual life you want to have. And you're not building upon things that you did with previous partners to try to now bring into this particular situation. So that is another pro to consider. Another pro is, the quality of the relationship statistically will be higher. And I actually got an article on this that I read from webmd.com. There's an article that says there's a study that involved 2,035 married participants in an online assessment of marriage called Relate. According to the study, people who waited until marriage rated sexual quality 15% higher than people who had premarital sex, rated relationship stability as 22% higher, and rated satisfaction with their relationship 20% higher. So part of that is because, again, you're only being intimate with this one person. You're basically saying to this person, you are the choice that I am choosing for lifetime everything, lifetime partnership and lifetime sexual experience. And if you're able to do this right, then this is the kind of thing that can actually heighten your closeness together because you've only been intimate with this one person. You haven't split yourself among these other various people throughout the course of your life. And so, like I said, statistically, that's showing it. It's nothing I made up. This is statistical numbers that are showing that the odds of your relationship being a higher quality overall are going to be significantly higher. I think part of that also is due to there's no jealousy issues in terms of like, if you hooked up with nobody, then your wife is most likely not going to be worried about or jealous of you possibly sneaking off with a girlfriend of yours who was a potential sex partner that you tried to turn into a friendship while she's thinking, but he might have, because there's no worry. You haven't done anything with anybody besides her, just my 2 cents on that part. Let's see. Pro number 4, you will have a higher bond ideally if you use the non-sexual time wisely. So if you are with somebody and you're both actively not having sex, it means now that the time that you would be having sex is time you could actually be getting to really do your due diligence and know the person. And this is something I tell you guys all the time, is that sometimes in the courses of trying to have sex with the person too soon, you end up missing out on these various things that could be good or could be red flags. And most guys, if the sex is really good early on, will start to avoid, will forgive. They will forgive the red flags. They'll see something that she does with other people at a restaurant, or she'll talk to him in some kind of way, and he'll be like, well, it's just what it is, it's okay. And they're not realizing that part of the reason they're doing that is because the sex is just so good that they don't want to give it up. And I've been there myself where it's like, I kind of don't really see me and this person working out, but oh God, there's just the sex in the bed is just so bomb, and I just don't want to give that up. So maybe I can try to make this work out. Maybe she'll change. Maybe she'll be one that like sees things from my perspective, and just people are how they are. And it's really hard to change that. So if you're not having sex, then it's easier to really to do your due diligence, to find out the other person. And honestly, it makes it easier to break up with them if you find out, oh, you know what? They actually are not the right person for me. So, and that's a good thing because, the divorce rate in this country is high. And I think part of that is because we do get with partners that aren't right for us, but certain things keep us in the relationship, whether it's family, whether it's like we think we can't get anybody else, or whether it's because the sex is so good, we don't want to give it up. So something to consider. And of course, the fifth pro is very, very obvious. If you've never had sex and they've never had sex, then there's going to be no STDs and no unknown pregnancies prior to the relationship. Okay, it just is what it is. So now that's not to say you might be a person that are doing other things that are close to having sex, but not full penetration. And those things can, in fact, cause STDs and various things. So that's something to be mindful of. But if you're just full on like nothing, no kind of nothing touching or anything like that, then you're less likely to catch any of these kind of things unless you get like shot up by a needle accidentally in the wrong way at a doctor's appointment. Or, if you all saw Jane the Virgin, she got pregnant by accident at her clinic, which was hilarious in that scenario, but in real life is not likely to happen unless the woman artificially inseminates herself. So that's a good thing going in, is if you don't want to worry about having STDs or her possibly being pregnant by another person, then you guys both agreeing to wait is a fabulous choice to make. So those are the pros. Let me go over the stream chat real quick here. Let's see. Day one, sex gets a lot out of the way quick. Oh man, we're about to get into some of the cons here. But yeah, something about you're supposed to have sex before marriage. Again, it's not one of those things that it's a have to or don't have to. It just really is you have to decide for yourself, and your partner has to also decide if that's the game plan you guys want to have. Because couples that are able to do that, like I said, you can make it work. I just know for me and the experiences that I've had, and we'll get into that in a minute, but some of the experiences that I've had with women in the course of the sexual realm of things has taught me that it is definitely better to at least once before you get married, do it with this other person, because a lifetime of bad sex is not something people like to sign up for. And we'll get into that in a minute. Okay, so let's go ahead and get into the cons, because we've got a lot of stuff to go through. So the first con of waiting until your marriage is that you won't know what to do on your wedding night. This is the one I alluded to earlier with my friend, whereby it's like, you got to figure you're both coming to this as amateurs. And that's not necessarily the worst thing in the world, but it is a thing where like sex is one of those things that you get better at it as you go along. And so for that first time to be bad is never good. Especially if you're like a person that these days, a lot of people waiting until their 30s to have sex. So you've gone 30 something years without the muscle memory to have sex in a way that's going to be most pleasing to all parties. And now you're going to try to figure it out. And this can be something that is very, very frustrating, because you're thinking you're going to just hop in and know what to do. And then you're not aware of other various things that could get in the way of that, which we'll get into right now. So con number 2 is that you may not be sexually compatible with the other person. And I mean this in a wide variety of ways, but particularly, like I said, with my situation earlier, the girl that I was with, she didn't want to do certain angles, certain positions. She didn't want to do certain things on me that I was doing to her. And it just could be a thing where like the girl, let's say you and the girl you marry, you're both virgins, okay? And then you start to try to do some stuff in the bed. You're trying to like, even you might be trying to go down, or she might be like, oh no, I smell weird down there. And, oh, I don't think this, blah, 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 blah. Or you try to kiss a certain part of her body. Oh, I don't know. I don't like that body part. Oh my God, isn't that? Or you want to do her, doggy style position. Oh, I don't like the way this feels. It feels awkward. So you're going to end up trying to do things and realizing that, oh, wait, she doesn't like this thing that I like. Or she's going to be like, he doesn't want to do this thing that I really need him to do. And you don't have any knowledge of that because you guys both waited until wedding night to try to figure that stuff out. So now you're going to both have an awkward sex life, because even though you waited, you're realizing, oh, there's still things coming up that we actually don't match on in the sexual realm. And funny enough, I read an article that said divorce lawyers say that this is a major reason that many people's marriages end, is because of bad sexual compatibility. People not liking what their partner's doing in bed or is not willing to do in bed. And how else would you know that, though, if you're both virgins? Like, people think that it's just like you just jump into bed and you just know, it just automatically turns on and you know what to do. And if you're like me and studied, you kind of know a little bit, but there's even if you study it up, you don't know how that person's going to move. You don't know what that person's going to like. You don't know what angles that person's going to want to do. You don't know if that person's going to want to wear lingerie to bed, or if you're, polyamorous, bring another person to bed. Like, there's so many things you just don't know when you don't do. And you could try to be that guy that's like, okay, we're going to talk about what we like in sex before we get married, or the things that we're going to want to try. But suppose you have that conversation and she's like, yeah, I want to try doing this thing. And then you guys try it out and you really, really like it. And she's like, nah, it's not for me. Now that's off the table. So that could be something to consider, is that, oh, you might not know if the person you're going to be with is going to be somebody that's actually sexually compatible with you long-term. Which leads to 3. Con number 3, the woman you're with may be timid and not want to try certain things. And I point this out with women specifically because, the advantage of being a guy is that, for better or for worse, people in this country assume that we are all about sex and that we just want to do any kind of sex and want to do everything. But women have a huge stigma on them in the sexual realm in general, but specifically as it pertains to how they're going to look and how society is going to judge them if they are a certain way or do certain things. So you might have a woman that's been taught, like, well, women shouldn't be subservient. They shouldn't do X, Y, and Z. So you're standing up thinking she's going to get down on her knees, for example, to do some stuff to you down there. And she's like, well, I can't do that position because I can't be on my knees because that's going to make me look some kind of way. Or I don't want to wear this certain thing because my body part's going to feel some kind of way and I'm going to look this way and I don't want to do that. So you might be a guy that's like, when I get sex, I'm going to do everything I can. I'm going to be bold as heck. And you might have a girl that's like, well, I'm like a quiet church mouse. Like, I don't want to, I feel certain and I don't want to be like, and whatever. And you didn't know that because you were both not doing anything before marriage. So there was no way to show that kind of timidness. But now you're in a bedroom situation where you want stuff to pop off and nothing's happening. And that's going to suck for you and suck for her, because now she's going to feel that she's going to either have to get pushed into that, or she's going to resent you for doing some stuff in the bed that she didn't want to happen. And that is definitely going to cause a rift in the amount of sex and how she feels about sex with you. Okay. Something to consider. Con number 4. Here's an interesting one, guy. You may hurt her if you don't fit in her in the right way. Okay. And this is for you guys out there that might be like in the, we'll say 6.5 inch or higher club, because as much talk as there is, and as much as we're made to believe that bigger is better, and that all women want these really big guys that are going to really like give it to them hard, the reality, a little bit different. Most women's canals only go so deep and they're only so wide. And so you could very well end up with a woman who's very petite all over, including down there. And you might be a bigger guy. And so you get there wedding night, you're for one, if her hymen's still intact, you're trying to break through that. That's already going to be its own situation, but that over time will start to feel better. But your member itself, when trying to go into her, could legit hurt her to the point where it hurts so much that sex is not enjoyable with her. You're trying different angles. You're trying not to go in all the way, but she's just saying, oh, this hurts. Oh, this feels weird. Oh, you hurt me every time. And it would have been nice to have known that before you got married, but you didn't even get a chance to look at her stuff until wedding night. So now you got a situation where you guys genuinely love each other and you genuinely want to have sex with each other. And it's just killing her every time you do, to where she has to be like, you know what, babe, not tonight. You know what, let's just wait a week or so before we do it again. You know what, let's just try some lube and stuff, and it's still not working. Like, it's a horrible thing. And, I'm not going to call myself on a particular thing to say what I am, but I have been with girls that have expressed at times like, oh, like it was more than I was expecting, and we need to kind of relax a little bit. And it's like, oh man, I'm glad I know this beforehand, because Lord God knows that doing this long-term with this person was going to suck for both of us. And not every woman's built like that. Some women have long ass canals where you can be like 9 inches and jump in there and she'll be like, I don't feel anything. But you don't know that until you actually been in a few rounds with her. So if you're avoiding doing that and you're waiting, then this is a thing that could potentially happen. So like I said, if nothing else, I would be at least like 1 round in the sack at least, just to make sure everything's going to not only go well with your likes and dislikes, but also the mechanics of like being able to get in there are going to actually function as well. Somebody said, what about aftershocks? Dude, I don't even know. Like, women typically like orgasmic aftershocks, but they don't like aftershocks where it's painful or they're literally like cramped in their stomach for like a week. Those are the kind of things where they're not all that happy about the aftershock of it all. And then con number 5 is just depression. It's just the thing where, like I said, if you're waiting a long time, the disadvantage would be after a while, it goes from like it's actively your choice to. You could legit start to feel like women really don't like you, or you'll never get sex, or maybe you're just not a desirable sexual candidate. And this is just for our ego, guys, because we know, like I said, because your testosterone is saying to you at almost all times, hey, go have sex. Hey, you need a release. Hey, find a woman. When you're not doing that, by default, you're going against the nature of what your body's telling you to do. And that can, in effect, make you feel depressed. Even if you're thinking this is your choice, your conscious could say, this is my choice. Your subconscious is like, I'm not getting what I want. Why isn't anybody giving me what I want? I feel bad about this. All right. So those are the pros and cons. And then I wanted to add in a bonus one that can be a pro and a con depending on how you feel about the situation. Okay. And that's this, is that you can have, if you decide to wait, or if you are just waiting by default, you can have feelings of regret when you are trying to wait and then you do have sex. And you can also feel some kind of way when you do wait to have sex and you finally have sex and it's disappointing. Okay. And so this is one of those things where it can be a pro and a con. Like I said, when I had sex for the first time, I didn't feel bad about it at all. But some guys do, like when they're waiting and then they finally have sex and they're like, man, like I was really trying to hold off and now I feel like I've just, cheated my future wife from that or whatever. But as I've said earlier, there are also guys who they wait until they have sex and then they get there that wedding night and it's disappointing and it's not what they thought it was going to be. And it was this big hyped up event that they're made for years to feel like it's going to be like the end all be all fairy tale ending to this non-sexual journey you're having, only to find out that it's not that at all, that it feels awkward, that there's going to be some things that they wish they had known, that they don't probably fit into the woman, or their woman doesn't want to have sex with them as much as they thought it was going to happen. And so either of these things can create feelings of regret and disappointment, or, happiness if you were able to wait and you waited and the person you were with was the right person and you decide, yeah, this felt good after all. We waited. Congratulations. Woohoo. Like you can have that feeling waiting also. So these are the things that you need to decide if it's good for your emotional health or for your physical health to wait, if it's something that you're not going to feel bad about having the experience, or you're going to feel guilty if you do have the experience. These are things that you really need to sit down and analyze with yourself, because, it's going to be important to have that same conversation when you bring a woman into the equation, but it's going to still be your personal emotional journey as to whether or not that's going to affect you in the long term. And you can't let anybody else dictate that for you. So if you're a guy that wants to wait until he's a virgin and you meet a woman who doesn't want to wait, then you got to decide if that's important enough to be like, you know what, this isn't going to work out. Like, I think you'd be the perfect woman, but I just know if you want to have sex right now, just for me, emotionally and physically, this isn't something that I want to do yet. So I'm out. Or you could be a guy that doesn't want to wait till he's married, but are still a virgin. And you meet somebody else that's like, hey, I want to be a virgin. And now you're like, well, I kind of thought I was going to get some. So if you really do want to wait, then that's cool. But just either we're going to have to get married in the next 6 months, or we're going to have to part our ways, because I'm actively looking for somebody to have sex with. Neither of those things are right. None of those things are wrong. They're just personal choices that you need to decide how those are going to be best for you, and it's going to be for the betterment of you. Okay. So you've heard the various pros and cons here. You now know what to go with. Really figure that out for yourself and see what's best for you. And regardless of what choice you choose, it's the right choice for you, and you should be happy with it regardless. Okay. Don't let the stigma of having premarital sex convince you into thinking that it's ultimately bad for you. Okay. But don't let people that are having sex push you to want to do an act too early that you might not actually be ready for. All right. So hopefully it helps you guys out. Thank you so much for tuning into this particular podcast. I'm going to check the chats one more time here. I love how Protest Party quotes me at various times. You may hurt her if you don't fit in her. You'd be surprised how often of occurrence that is, especially for, some of us African-American gentlemen. But yeah. So yeah, for those of you that don't want to wait, then don't wait. Get your groove on, have fun, make it a special thing for and that's the thing too. If and when you decide to lose your virginity, please make it a special thing for you. Obviously you want to make it special for her too, because you want to treat the woman special that's in the scenario, but make it a special thing for you. Get special kind of condoms, get special kind of music, put up balloons and streamers, do whatever you got to do to make this be the event that's this is signifying something. Okay. But I say that saying don't overhype it either. Don't make it this thing this is going to be the best thing of the day of my life. Because my first sexual experience, it was absolutely great. I learned some new things about sex that I didn't know before, that I was like, oh, this is something they don't teach you in the movies and things like that. And I had a good time. But, I wasn't trying to overhype the event. It was very low key how that even started in the first place. But once I got into it, I was like, oh, this is what people were talking about. I would definitely do this again. Versus oh, I hyped it up and it was just this. Like you don't want to set yourself up for disappointment either, you know? So anyway, that's the show for today. For more of these shows, you can go to introvertdatingsuccess.com. You can also catch us live Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at protestparty.tv. For those of you that are watching this either on Instagram or Facebook, that's where you can go to actually specifically chat with us in the chat is protestparty.tv. So be sure to join us. If you guys have any questions you'd like answered on one of these shows, you can write me at harrywilmington@gmail.com. Go to the website to check out the various ebooks that I have, check out the various videos, video trainings that I have. And of course, if you need one-on-one coaching or just any help in general, click on the coaching tab and we can help you out. Guys, thank you so much for tuning into today's show. As always, you can catch more of these shows every week. And I'm just happy to be able to help you guys out. And that's all I got. So I'm Harry Wilmington. Thanks for tuning in. And I will catch you guys on the next show. I'm out. Peace.
Thanks for listening to the Introvert Dating Success Podcast. Visit us at introvertdatingsuccess.com for more great tips on attracting women using your natural introvert charm. Oh, yeah.
We don't need all these cops. We don't need no billy club. Y'all done enough.
No justice, no peace. No racist police.
Enough is enough!
Somebody imagined shackles on black wrists, and yet people believed it to make it true. Somebody imagined borders, and enough people believed it to make it true. Somebody imagined police, and enough people believed it to make it true. So we have to be the diviners of change, the disruptors of truth. We must imagine differently.
We have to stop the nonsense and take back our community. And we have to police ourselves. Fight like Ali for your life.
This event has been deemed an unlawful assembly. You need to disperse to the east now. Failure to comply with this lawful order may substitute your arrest and forced disclosure.
System of policing has got to go.
Say her name. Say her name. Who looks a bit dressed for a riot? Under them.
Our lives matter. Black lives matter.
It could have been me. It could have been you. It could have been anybody out here, man.